to the Sacred Soul Roots podcast. We're your co hosts, April and Angela. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to be talking about water, that good old H2O stuff that we drink and interact with on a daily basis. So, one reason why we kind of wanted to do a deep dive, or should I say a shallow dive into this, is water's been in the news a lot recently with the upcoming AI data centers. We already have, I guess, 4,000 built in the US alone, and many
Wow.
more that are being planned right now. And they're already talking about potential water restrictions and, of course, increasing water bills and all that stuff. So it just kind of made me think about water and even appreciate something maybe a little more than I'm used to, maybe kind of taking for granted usually. Water's has always been readily available and plentiful for us. It's not anything we've had to really think about being reduced or restricted. So I just wanted to think about water and talk a little bit about water. And another thing recently, too, is I went on a field trip with my daughter who's in fourth grade, and her class. We all went up to the Bull Run watershed,
Oh,
which is
cool.
where Portland metro area gets all its drinking water.
Mm,
Okay. And it was beautiful, and it felt like a sacred spot that's probably been sacred for many, many years, even with Native Americans. It's where it's like a temperate climate rainforest where they collect this just beautiful rainwater, and they have reservoirs, and it's really cool. It is a restricted area. You have to either be a worker there or go on a guided tour. And part of that guided tour, they give you all kinds of like educational information about what they do with the water, how they test it and analyze it, how it's like on a gravity pump down into the city here through the pipes, and very cool. And just I felt so honored to like be able to go and see where our drinking water comes from. And when you think about it too, like we interact with water all day, every day. Starting from the morning, you get up, you use the bathroom, you flush your toilet. Well, that's water. You take a shower, that's water.
true.
You are brewing coffee in your coffee pot with water. You wash your hands. I mean, just so many times throughout the day, we have this resource that we use and don't really think much about, but it really should be acknowledged as the sacred resource it is. And so I just wanted to chat water with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about all the water uses and how important it is to us. And I think it's really important to like just kind of point out that as our human bodies, we're made up of 60% water.
Mhm.
Coincidentally, the earth is 70% water. And so there's just a lot of synchronicities between like, our bodies and the waters that we hold, as well as like earth and the water that it holds. And what is it? 97% of the world's water is
Mhm.
undrinkable. It's not potable. It's salt water.
Mhm.
And the kind of the same is true about our own bodies. And what I mean by that is
Mhm.
that like 97% of the water that is in our system is full of like electrolytes, which are like minerals and salts. When you sweat, you salty or salty tears, those type of things. And so not only is like water such a valuable resource to us, it's actually it's life. It's life itself. It's what we develop in our very fetal stages. When
True.
we are developing in the womb, we're surrounded and held and protected by the waters of our mother. And when we come out into this world, we're kind of released from that water. But as a doula and as you being a mom that has done some water births, some babies are born into water. And it's just a really gentle way of entering the earth. But yeah, there's a lot of connections between water and how sacred it is, and how connected we are as humans to it.
Yes, and one of my most favorite things to do is every year we go on a trip to Montana, and I love there's lakes everywhere within where we stay. I would say there are like 12 different lakes all within a couple hours drives any which way.
Mm,
It's pretty amazing, but to go and swim deep and be like
mm.
submersed in water and in the middle of the lake, not knowing how deep it is, but I'm sure it's really deep, but just that feeling of being held and surrounded by water is uplifting and healing. I always call it the healing waters of Montana.
Mm.
And same here too when we go and visit the rivers. And one of my favorite things to do is find river agates. It's like, oh, like finding gold. I love river agates. It's amazing. And just being near the healing waters of Oregon or wherever you're at, the water is what our Mother Earth provides to us in water form is amazing, and it's brings so much joy as well.
Oh, absolutely. That kind of reminds me, like, we like to go agate hunting. One of the favorite things me and my family like to do is like water hiking. I don't know if that's like a
Mm,
thing or if it's a term that I made up, but we go hiking in places that there's usually trails, but instead of walking on the trails, we walk along the water.
mm,
There's like Sweet Creek Falls that is on the way to the coast is one of my favorite places to go water hiking. And when the kids were younger, like sometimes they would have to jump on our backs or just find trails or ways to like get across the river or crawl up waterfalls that aren't super long. I could set
mhm,
them on top, but those type of things. And so we always called those water hikes that we took. And it's just, there's something refreshing and so healing and powerful about being in these natural springs or visiting hot springs. Oh,
mhm.
beautiful. Oregon is populated with a lot of different hot springs. Yeah.
Yes, talk about healing waters. And of course, one of my favorite places to go is the ocean. And luckily,
Ooh,
that's only like an hour drive away for both of us, not too far. I mean, we live in different cities, but luckily the coast is
yeah.
west and not too far, and we could go there and enjoy it on a day trip even. And there's something so healing about being near the ocean and the sound and the moisture in the air and then getting your feet wet and walking barefoot in the sand. It's just oh, I love it. And just the ocean vibes and how that all works like with the moon pole. I mean, talk to me about
Yeah.
that a little bit.
So
Like
yeah, just the waves, our waves and our tides, it's all dictated by our moon system and where the moon is in relative to our space. And there's a gravitational pull that takes place where the moon actually pulls the gravity of the ocean towards it. And then there's reverb that happens onto the other side. And so that's why you have this rhythm that the ocean rocks back and forth and back and forth. And then also there's kind of high tides and low tides and different types of tides that we experience throughout the year, depending on where the sun is in relative to the moon as well. There's such a celestial mechanism that occurs when it comes to the planet, but it's interesting that that is scientific proof, and we could talk about that. That's not woo woo, but when it comes to us as humans being 60% water, it completely gets dismissed when it comes to ourselves. And is almost looked as this myth or this woo woo, when there's a full moon, how the crazies come out, or, that's what people say. But if you ask anybody that sleeps on the ground and works in, as a firefighter, a policeman, a mental health worker, or a nurse that works in an ER, they can tell you when there's a full moon because people's behaviors change. Um, yeah, and so it's just this really interesting synchronicity between the ocean and the moon and how it has such a pull on our waters. And so it makes you really wonder, like, what is that pull doing inside of our bodies?
yes, and the idea that water might be able to hold emotion and some sort of memory. We've talked about before that Japanese author with the last name Emoto. I can
Emoto.
remember that because it reminds me of emotion. But like he did an experiment with little bits of water and exposing these bits of water to intentions and words like love and gratitude versus some were exposed to negative words like evil, ugly, and hate. And then he froze those bits of water and the formations, the crystal formations within the
Mm.
ice looked very different. And the beautiful words or the loving emotions held these symmetrical crystal formations, whereas
Mm,
the ones that were given these bad feelings and these bad vibes were ugly and distorted. And so that's very interesting to think about and makes you wonder how that mechanism works with the emotional pull and connection between humans and water and what that's doing. And the same if you talk to plants again are made up mostly of water as well. That
absolutely.
they say that plants respond to if you sing to them and talk to them lovingly, your plants seem to thrive and do a little better versus if you're like, ah, I gotta water you again. You're a water sucker. No, just kidding. I mean, like the idea that you can also interact with plants, which are mostly made of water, and just that interaction and the communication of water and the idea of what's communicated in our own salt water that leaves our eyes. Sometimes I get mushy and I'm like, "Oh, here comes the salt water." But There was a I think his name was Doctor William Fry. I think that's right.
Yeah.
He studied that, like, the compositions of tears versus, like, regular tears when you might have a little bit of a tear from cutting an onion or something. Those are basal reflex tears or whatever, compared to if you're crying for an emotional reason like joy or sadness or
Mm,
grief, that those compositions of your tears when crying in an emotional way actually held a lot of stress hormones and other biomarkers and neurotransmitters and a different composition of salt too, that it could be seen as maybe a way to understand sometimes why we feel better after a good cry, because it's our body's
yeah.
way of potentially releasing toxins and stress hormones through our tears, through our crying process, which is very human. Yeah,
It's a
so
really
it's just interesting.
interesting concept to think about water in general, and as well as the water in which we emit has the ability to hold emotions almost and hold those memory of things. Yeah, that's a very interesting concept to make you think of maybe if they're looking at a micro level, going just like one more step further, what they'll develop in the future or discover in the future that can hold these memories.
Yes, and there was also a photographer, her name was Rose Lynn Fisher, and she took her tears out of curiosity. I guess she described it as there was a period of her life where she realized she was just crying a lot and got curious and put those tears on a slide and put them under an electron high powered microscope to see what did these tears look like, and realized they almost created a look of almost like an aerial photo of the earth, or they looked like landscapes and different formations, and depending they would look almost different and potentially symmetrical, whether it was crying for joy or crying out of pain and a feeling of loss, and just the different landscape pictures, almost the tears made under the high powered microscope.
Wow.
And like, that's intriguing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like, it's kind of snowflakes when they fall too. But they say no two snowflakes are ever the same. And when they look under, they looked under microscopes and they saw these different
Hmm.
shapes and how every snowflake is a different shape. It's just a very, what kind of emotions are being brought down to us from snows or raindrops. It's kind of and how
Yes,
does
and
that
all these.
affect us? Think
Yeah, it's like
about.
the language of water. It's communicating something. It's carrying a message of sorts. It's very interesting. And another way that water leaves our body is obviously like through urine too, which also can give us a sign if our body is getting enough water or not. Like
Mm,
generally, healthy urine should be probably a light yellow, like the color of lemonade. But if you're actually getting dehydrated, your pee will let you know. Basically, it'll look kind of like the color of apple juice or tea, which is just a sign, hey, I need more water over here. And so that's another way to that it kind of carries a message in color, really, and letting your body communicate to you a sign that it needs something to be done differently and to help it return to homeostasis, or what is best is getting water. And that's one thing I found interesting when I was in my health and life coach program, is finding out really that it didn't seem like a lot of people were drinking water, which me, I
mm,
drink water all the time because I love it, always have. But it was interesting, and not to give someone like an action plan of jump into drinking 8 to 10 glasses of water a day, especially if they haven't been drinking really any water, but to start by making little micro shifts along the way, and
mm.
maybe finding a tea that you love and having a couple of cups of tea a day. Well, that's made mostly with water. And another way would be creating new little routines, like maybe when you wake up in the morning, instead of having something to eat or a cup of coffee right away, that you actually just have a tall, cool glass of water. And who knows if that water is
Yeah.
carrying memory, you could say, hey, thank you for being with me today, water, as you drink it. Give it a
Yes.
little message.
Give it your biggest wish or the best words you want for yourself. That way you internalize
Right?
it. Yeah, for sure. That's really
Yeah,
good.
and there's also a lot of foods that carry a lot of water content too, like melons and cucumbers. Another way of just increasing a little water take, a
Mm,
little bit at a time, without feeling overwhelmed with the idea that to go from no water in a day, and instead of having like a can of soda, you have a can of flavored bubbly water or something. But do little micro shifts along the way to if you're finding your body is needing a little more water.
yeah. I remember that was kind of one of the things that me and you worked on when we were doing coaching. You were doing coaching with me,
Hmm.
was getting enough water into the system, just increasing and being aware of the amount of water that I drink. And so I know I made slow changes just to add water here and there. But one of the things that's kind of stuck with me is that I usually try to drink water, first thing in the morning, but also just wrap it around those meals. And so that I'm getting at least 16 ounces of water before a meal and then after a meal throughout the day. So that kind of gets me to that 8-ounce glasses a day. It's a good goal for me to remember when I eat, I drink water. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good just to be in tune with your body, and your body will kind of let you know. Signs of dehydration might be like a darker urine. It might be kind of like dry mouth. You might start having mild signs, but as also severe signs too can almost like mimic the signs of a heart attack if you're dehydrated. One time I actually took my mom to the ER. I was visiting her on the weekend. And she started freaking out. And she said she had
Oh,
stumbled in the bathroom and she was feeling lightheaded and dizzy and
scary.
was feeling disassociated from her body. And oh my gosh, you're having a heart attack. So her heart was beating fast, all this scary stuff. So we took her to the ER and luckily they got her stabilized right away. She just was dehydrated. So they gave her some
Hydration.
IV fluids and her body reacted and got stabilized. And that was good. It wasn't a heart attack after all. But to know that severe dehydration can kind of mimic those signs of a heart attack a little bit. Yes, it's just good to be tuned
Absolutely.
into your body and to also not overdo it too. If you start drinking a ton of water, you can actually end up kind of flushing out some important electrolytes and minerals that your body needs. So you don't want to overdo it either. But just to be aware, like during summer months when it gets a little bit hotter and you might be sweating more, or if you're doing any intense exercise or you're sweating more, to maybe look at how much water you're drinking and increase it a bit if that's the case.
I know for sure. Like when you were talking about dehydration, it reminds me of something that I learned in biology class with the negative biofeedback loop, where your body
Mm,
starts where you would think it would conserve the water and the fluids that are within you, being dehydrated.
hmm
Instead, you're having a negative reaction. It's a negative loop, and it causes you to actually vomit and expel water or sweat. So your body starts letting go of water, and it does that to kind of flush out the electrolytes that is in your body, and to try to kind of get the H2O versus the H2O with the sodium and the electrolytes that are there. But yeah, it's this interesting negative biofeedback loop. Yeah.
Gotcha. Love that. Yeah. And to know that you can also make natural electrolytes at home too, just
Oh
by
yeah.
having a glass of filtered water is the best, but a glass of water and you can put some good quality sea salt, a little bit of honey, maybe a little squirt of lemon. Those are all considered natural electrolytes.
I love my pink Himalayan salt. Yeah, it's pink
Ooh,
Himalayan salt. Makes me feel fancy when I put a little sprinkle in my water. My fairy dust.
nice.
Yeah.
I think I hear my daughter playing the flute.
Uh,
Sorry if that's coming through. I'm not sure. Did you hear it?
a little bit. That's okay.
Yeah, she's excited because
Aw.
at the end of the school year, she's been playing the big berry sax, which is really big. But I guess for the last couple of weeks of school, they get an opportunity to try out a different
Oh,
instrument.
how cool is
And so
that?
she wanted to rub it in with the flute and go, watch, I can make it make sound. Because I remember when I was in band and I tried the dang flute, and I would
Yeah.
sit at home in front of the mirror and I could not get that thing to make a sound.
Really?
I could not get the flute to play. That's why I dropped out of band. I wish
Oh,
someone would have offered me a different instrument. Like, why don't you try this? But no, I tried so many times. I was sitting in front of my bedroom mirror. I could not get the flute to play.
that was why you dropped out of band. I thought you just didn't like it. Like, I used to be,
Oh, I tried and I
oh,
tried.
oh, the teacher. I don't know. Like, I was in band. I was in band until the 8th grade, and me and one of our schoolmates used to always compete for first chair. I was either first chair or she was first chair. And so we would always challenge one another, and we kept trading who was first chair off and on, off and on, off and on. It's kind of fun.
Yes, I remember you playing the
It
clarinet,
was
and I
good.
sat at home and
But
tried for hours on end
you
playing
should
the
have
damn
tried to play
flute.
the clarinet with me. You would have been able to play it.
I know. I wish the band teacher would have said that. Like, why don't you try something else? Because the flute was not working. I literally could not get it to make a sound. I couldn't get the right format, the formation of my mouth. And
That
yeah,
poor
I can't
band
whistle
teacher.
either.
I'll have to tell you, I never did it. I was not the one, but he used to get
What?
teepeed all the time. It wasn't me. I promise. I never teepeed his house. I'm not saying that I've never teepeed a house, but his house was not one that I teepeed. But it used to get teepeed all the time.
Oh my
Fun
gosh, I
fact.
never heard that.
Yes, Mr.
That
Hendrickson.
is funny. Oh my
Mr. Hendricks.
goodness.
Yeah.
Mr. Hendricks. Oh,
Yeah.
back in the day.
Poor
Oh
guy.
my goodness.
Feel so bad for some of those teachers. Yeah. But
Wow.
which reminds me when you're playing an instrument, you wanna drink water.
Right? Water just comes in handy a lot more often than we even give it recognition for, I swear. Do you know water's called the rebel liquid because most liquids, when they're frozen, they get more dense and heavy. But with water, it's called the rebel liquid because it expands, and that's why like the ice in your glass of water floats.
Oh,
And
yeah.
also, there's another unsolved mystery when it comes to water. Scientists still debate, I guess, why hot water freezes faster than cold water.
Yeah, that is
I
interesting.
think is what it is. Like,
Yeah,
it's like, "What?" I'll have to try that at home. I have to run a little experiment with the kids, like, "Okay, we're trying this, because how could that be?"
but I feel once water's warm, it gets to a warming point. But the cold water, because it expands, it does make sense because when it's hot and the water's boiling, the the molecules are like being around like this, right? When
Mhm.
it's just regular water, it's moving like this. And then when it's ice, it's not really moving at all. But because they're moving around like this, they might be just closer to binding to one another, you know?
That makes
I mean,
sense.
maybe,
Yeah.
science hasn't figured it out. So, that's just my hypothesis I'm throwing in there. Maybe I just solved the case.
Yes. Well, you have your environmental chemistry degree and
I
did all kinds
do.
of interesting experiments with this kind of stuff. So I could see that being super valid. And then water has a fourth state too. We know the three states of water: liquid, frozen, and vapor, right, or steam. And then I was reading that there's a fourth state within our body in the cells itself. There's like a hydrogel that it's a gel-like state that carries a charge. So
Yeah, it's in our
water's pretty
mitochondria
amazing.
DNA. Interesting fact, mitochondria DNA can only be passed down from your mother. You don't get that from your father.
That's interesting. All these mysteries when it comes to water, all these things we're still going to learn and still figure out. And yeah. And another thing we've talked about before too, that idea the dinosaur pee fact, which means that all the water we have today is all the ancient waters from before, that there is no technically new water
Mhm.
in our atmosphere, in our environment. And so that the water you drink today might be some water that's passed through a T-Rex or something before. I mean, who knows? But that's pretty interesting to think that all the waters we have now are ones that have always been and will always be.
There'll always be. And that kind of, I know at the beginning of this podcast, we talked a little bit about AI and some of our waters that are going through their systems. And if water always remains kind of homeostasis on our planet, regardless of what it's gone through in the regeneration through passing through us, makes me wonder what our water is going to look like, you know, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, even. Like, the interesting,
It's true.
interesting to think about. A little scary,
Yeah, and I
but
did
yeah.
read somewhere that the AI data centers actually need good quality, like the potable drinking water, or they plan on getting it from the aquifers underground because of the fact that it's less corrosive, and
Yeah.
they'll be adding chemicals like biocides and stuff to it, and algicides for algae and bacteria stuff, but that they're chemicalizing the water. And at some point, even if it is recycled for a while, at some point there is a wastewater function happening where it gets put either in the sewer or somewhere in the environment. And yeah, has that forever altered, especially if it's been through these high-tech machines that we know nothing about too, these AI chips and stuff that they're working with nowadays. Yeah, how does that potentially forever alter our water quality? Who
Right.
knows? There's a lot we don't know
Yeah,
yet.
there's a lot that we don't know, and it's just kind of a interesting thought to think about how, water recycles itself in our earth where it gets brought up into the heavens and then put back down as nourishment into our grounds. And it's just that ever going cycle of, life regenerating itself. And it makes you wonder about the pollution of the waters that are being put back out there and how much that kind of contributes to our health on a day-to-day
Yeah,
basis.
you're right. And it
Yeah.
seems like nowadays it used to be considered a conspiracy theory, but now they come out and talk about they're actively cloud seeding
Mhm.
and putting aluminum and barium and who knows what else to do cloud seeding operations
Yeah.
to alter the weather and bring rain to certain areas and whatever they're up to up in our skies. That's also obviously coming down into our atmosphere, into our lungs, into our soils, being part of the food that is grown. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot going on and a lot we have yet to be made aware of, probably. So
Do you wanna trade jokes real quick? Mine's not so funny, but it's funny. So, what's the difference between reality and a conspiracy theory?
I don't know. Tell me.
Time.
That's a good one. Did I tell you what did one ocean say to the other?
What does one ocean say to the other? No, what does it say?
Nothing. They just waved. I know, kind of cheesy, but it's fun to be cheesy. I'm sure sometimes I'll be releasing my own sorry how I am sometimes too. So not in this podcast, but I'm curious in future ones if I ever get a little. Oh, sometimes that happens. Hope not, but we'll see. But anyway, so let's kind of wrap this baby up. We've gone all over the place with water. I love it. And as a let's get rooted part of
Mhm.
our podcast towards the end, what do you have for us, Angela?
Well, you mentioned last time that I should be doing a meditation for you. So I pre-recorded a meditation. It's 10 minutes long. So if this isn't a good time, if you're driving or something, maybe put pause and wait till you're in a comfortable place where you can just
Cool.
dedicate 10 minutes to just relax and listen and enjoy. Otherwise, why don't you sit down, lay down, get comfy, get cozy, and just relax and let go and listen to the meditation.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for doing that. And thank you to the audience for tuning in. We so appreciate it. We love you. Sending good vibes and lots of love.
Love
All right. Well,
you.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Take a deep breath all the way down and fill your belly. As you exhale, imagine exhaling all your tension, all your stress, all your worries, all the way out, letting go of each and every one until there is nothing left to exhale. Take another deep breath in, breathing in the peace and the calm and the relaxation of this moment. Now leave the shore of you behind. Walk out until the dry sand turns to damp grit, and the damp grit turns to liquid silver. You are standing where the edge of the earth meets the beginning of the deep. Look up. The moon is vast tonight, hanging low like a heavy, luminous pearl in the night sky. Her light isn't white, it is a liquid silver that pours across the surface of the black water, painting a shimmering highway right to your feet. Step into the shore of the water. Let the first wave break gently over your toes, your ankles. It is cool and soothing. It feels like a return. The sea is not outside of you. Your blood is brine. Your cells are tiny oceans. You are an extension of the deep, bound by the very same laws. As above, so below, and so within. Bring your hands to into your belly. Feel the fluid center of your being. High above, the moon begins to pull. Feel the gravity of her force gently tugging at the waters inside of you. You don't need to hold yourself tight or rigid. Let your spine sway just an inch with the rhythm of the waves. This is the beginning of the dance, the great conversation between the stone in the sky and the water in the bone. Scan your life for high tide. Where are you feeling full? Where are you holding, creating, and carrying the peak of your expression? Do not rush to empty it. Inhale and pull the silver light of the moon straight down into your belly, filling the vessel until it overflows. Let yourself feel the weight of your own fullness. You are capable of holding the tide. Now feel the shift. The moon relaxes her pull. The sea responds. Imagine the deep, vast ocean slowly exhaling. The water rescinds from the shore, drawing back into the great belly of the deep. This is the low tide. This is the sacred emptying. In our world, we fear the empty places. We fear the quiet, the pause, the lack. But the sea knows that the emptying is required in order to make room for the next arrival. It is safe to let the water go. Let your hands release your belly and open wide, palms facing the sky. Begin the human dance of the time. With each inhale, your body pulls inward, drawing energy up from the earth and down from the moon, filling your chest and lifting your heart. With each exhale, your body softens, your shoulders drop, and you pour yourself back out into the collective current. You are the shore, and you are the waves. You are the pulling in, and you are the letting go. Every choice, every breath, every season of your life is just this one dance. You do not have to stay in one shape. Imagine the silver light of the moon is now dissolving into the water around you. You are swimming in an illuminating sea of your own awareness, Every movement of your fingers leaves a trail of stardust in the dark water. Feel the profound relief of matching the rhythm of the moon and of the ocean's tide. You are no longer fighting the current. You are the current. The water is settling now. The tide has found its perfect rhythm. Bring one hand to your heart and the other to your belly, bridging the vastness of your chest to the depth of your center. You are anchored to the earth, pulled by the moon and washed by the sea. You are the rhythm. You are the dance. You are whole. Take one final breath of the salty air and the silver light. Carry this dancing rhythm of grace back with you across the threshold. You are the moon. You are the sea. You are the rise, and you are the fall.